motivation still stands as it was during the budget debate. And even since then, digging a little deeper, I see that Parliament, because I hear a lot of MPs speaking about the proper procedure, but this body has been dilly-dallying and actually confusing even associations that wanted to go to get a referendum. I went back and saw an article in 2015 where the Parliament said, oh, you have to submit it to a committee. Then the Parliament says, oh, we did it wrong. And then they submitted it another way, and Parliament said we did it wrong again. And a few of us weren't here at that time. So the accountability of the referendum is in Parliament, and maybe the motion, so-called, wasn't done right, but the body of Parliament has consistently been afraid to address this topic and avoiding getting it done. And I'll be voting for again, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Iran. I see the next speaker wishing to motivate her vote is MP De Wever. MP De Wever, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. It is exactly for the reason of that alone, where the way of us doing it is one way. Going about it through this method doesn't make sense. What it does now is basically put more of a collaborative effort on the members of Parliament to do the work, not for us to take the work, give it to somebody else, which is not their responsibility and authority to do. It's ours. This is the whole point of me requesting at the beginning of this meeting in the notification to pull it back, because it's, in my opinion, respectfully to all, a little bit nonsensical that we're voting on something that is our authority. So that's exactly why I asked it to be requested for us to caucus on the side to track it in. But if this is the way that it's going to go down, then I will be sure that not only on this floor of Parliament, but also in the public to basically clarify exactly the right way to do this. Then
I did a little research, and going back to the last time that there was a referendum, in March the 7th, 2017, this came in through a petition that was not actually done properly. The petition was not considered a petition, but then the chairman of petitions referred this very important point to a central committee meeting to be discussed. And looking at the articles and even at the motion, when I read it resolves to urge the government of St. Martin to begin preparations. At no point it says that Parliament needs to do the work. So I am somewhat confused about, where this is going and where this is pulling. When I look at it, it says urge the government. And I thought that that was actually the idea of a referendum, when we are going to decide that in here, yes, we will instruct government to prepare the referendum. So maybe I could get some clarity on that.
Because although it becomes a little political, a referendum is regulated by law. Articles 92 to 96 of the Constitution, that's where it's regulated. And I can quote for MP La Cruz, because I think it's imperative for MPs, regardless if they have read the law or not, to be honest and ask. And I appreciate MP La Cruz for asking for clarity on it. I will read Article 92, if I may be indulged, Madam Chair. Tot een raadplegend referendum wordt overgegaan op initiatief van de Staten. So that's where in the law it says that here is where it starts. We cannot pass the buck on to government to start the process. But then I want to go to Article 96, which is basically the crux of it all. We need a referendum law. We need a law that regulates referendum before we can go to the topic of what a referendum is to be, whether or not it's independence or autonomy. And as a matter of fact, a referendum can be held on a lot of topics. Basically, every law, if it doesn't pertain to something international, can be put into a referendum to ask the people how they feel about it. Anything maatschappelijk van belang can also be put in a referendum. So let's not make it seem as if the referendum is only about independence. Independence is merely a topic that I agree can be put on for referendum when we have regulated, according to the law, the referendum itself. When we have a referendum law that says, okay, in this specific case, when it comes to independence, these people from this age and up can vote and whatnot. We have to regulate these things first, guys. And the law says it starts with us. We, as Parliament, we have to do it by laws for ordering. So if we don't do that, then we cannot think that we can reach to the point where we're going to give the public a yes or no answer, a yes or no question. We really need to start here. And like MP De Wever said, I am not one for passing the buck on to government. Let's do it the right way. And if that is to be the wish of Parliament, which, by the way, to clarify one of the speakers before me, former MP Melissa Gomes, former MP Ludmila Duncan,
MP
and former
Peterson,
MP...
I need to ask you to keep
Yes.
it short. It's motivation.
Sorry, yes. And former MP Angelique Roumou, who was also in his faction, they started this whole trajectory to reach to that point for us to regulate the referendum. So just to note on that, and yeah, let's just continue the work, guys. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I will also remain on the same position in regards to my vote and vote against, not because I'm against a referendum, but against the procedure, how this motion came about. And I keep on saying education is key. My previous speaker already referred to the law. I did that the last time around as well. And I do think we need to use our time as members of parliament wisely. So I would like to advise for us to again, come with the committee of decolonization and members who are willing to contribute to that committee. I would like to propose myself, maybe there are others, so that we can start the work where it has left off and we can continue with the legislation and the proper procedures so that we can finalize this topic and bring it to where it has to be.
One thing, I know what's going to happen today. It's not even a secret. But one thing that I'm happy about this motion is that referendum is now a topic. Referendum is at the forefront. And the people won't forget. So let's see, everyone who is, let's do it the correct way, let's do it the correct way. When this is voted against today, time will tell. And let's see who really will head all committees that we speak about. Who really will bring forward all the laws that we speak about. Because the public is watching. And again, everybody like to jump and speak of referendum, independence. Referendum is to gauge the feeling and sentiment of the public. That is all that was being asked. So I will vote for, as I did before. And if it's voted against, I trust that this parliament will do it the correct way, since this way was incorrect. That's all.
And we start with number 13. We start with number 2.
MP Artwell Irian.
4.
MP Veronica Jansen-Webster.
Against.
MP Dimarla Vega.
Against.
MP Francisco La Cruz.
For.
MP Franklin Myers.
4.
MP Rayan Peterson.
Against.
MP Shamira Roseberg.
Against.
MP Ludmila De Wever. MP Christopher Waver.
Against.
MP Darrell York.
4.
MP Omar Atli. MP Lyndon Lewis.
4.
Chair Lady Sarah Westcott Williams.
Against. The votes cast are 6 for and 6 against. Based on the rules of order, this is the second time the voting has been tied, and thus this proposal is rejected.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurances.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
There are 7 subsidized secondary FBE schools, with 3 of them being Dutch exam schools and 1 also offering SLC and CSEC streams. The remaining 4 are CSEC schools. Division Public Education has the St. Martin Vocational Training School, and it is a general stream and LOE school. Student count in secondary education for this time period. In secondary schools, it increased from 2,810 students in 2020-2021 to 2,815 in 2021-2022. According to the data, the number of boys decreased by 13, whereas the number of girls increased by 18. Student count at all schools showed a decline, with the exception of, at the time, Academy PSVE, VWO, HAVO, and CCSLC, which showed an increase, and CBA remained unchanged. In June 2021, promotions in secondary education, a total of 402 Form 1 students were promoted, 466 Form 2 students were promoted, 464 Form 3, and 263 Form 4 students were promoted. In June 2022, a total of 507 Form 1 students were promoted, 428 Form 2, 487 Form 3, and 256 Form 4 students were promoted. It's noteworthy that I mentioned here, Mr. Chairman, that the number of students promoted in Form 4 was substantially lower for both academic years due to some school types ending at Form 4. So that is when these students graduate. And graduation rates in Form 4 for the exam period of June 2021, PSVE had 58 students that passed and 7 that failed. SMVTS had 35 students that passed and 4 that failed. MPC had 139 students pass and 18 failed.
Excuse me, Minister, not to cut off your flow. Is it possible that your staff can forward the presentation to some of the members of parliament now? Because they're saying it's kind of small for them to see on the screen, so this way they can follow along.
Eat more carrots.
Yes, yes.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. You may continue, Minister.
And Sundial had all 67 students pass. For the exam period of June 2022, PSVE had 36 students that passed and 3 that failed. SMVTS, 46 students passed and 4 failed. MPC had 73 students pass and 19 fail. And Sundial had 36 students pass and 1 student that failed. Graduation rates for Form 5, students from June 2021. St. Martin Academy had all 79 students pass. St. Dominic High School, all 58 students passed. Mac Comprehensive Secondary Education, all 39 students passed. And the Charlotte Brookson Academy had a Form 6 class, therefore there were no exam results received for that exam period. For the exam period of June 2022, HAVO had 34 students pass their exam and 6 that failed, and no data was received for this exam period from St. Martin Academy, St. Dominic High School, Charlotte Brookson Academy, or Mac Comprehensive Secondary Education. Graduation rates for those schools that carry a Form 6 or equivalent for the exam period of June 2021. Charlotte Brookson Academy had 23 students pass and 1 fail. VWO, all 15 students passed. St. Martin Academy Cape had all 36 students that passed. And St. Dominic High School's IB program, all 28 students passed. And for the exam period of June 2022 for Form 6, VWO had 14 students that passed and 5 that failed, and no data was received from St. Martin Academy Cape or St. Dominic High School's IB program. Student absenteeism in secondary education in 2020 to 2021, the percentage of student absenteeism peaked in the months of August, September, October, November, and June, while in 2021 to 2022, the peaks were in the months of October, January, April, and June. Teachers per board, when looking at secondary education, in 2020 to 2021, the total number of teachers active in secondary schools was 308. SVOBA and FAVA school boards had the most teachers employed with 125 and 79 respectively. As for 2021 to 2022, there were 301 teachers in secondary schools, with SVOBA and FAVA continuing to have the most teachers employed with 131 and 75 respectively. Teacher distribution among schools illustrates that MPC has the most teachers with a total of 96 in 2020 to 2021 and 101 teachers in 2021 to 2022. St. Martin Academy was the second highest with 51 teachers in 2020 to 2021 and 50 in 2021 to 2022. For further breakdowns in secondary education, 69% of teachers were female, 49% carried the Dutch nationality, and 80% possess a bachelor's or master's degree. And the data on teacher turnover in secondary education illustrates that the largest group of teachers fell in the age range of 41 to 50 years old for both academic years. The second largest age group fell within the age range of 31 to 40 years old. And the nationality of teachers in secondary education were 49% Dutch nationality and 51% non-Dutch. The primary non-Dutch nationality holders are Guyanese, Jamaican, and Surinamese. Teacher qualifications in secondary education data reveals that for both academic years, most teachers possessed a bachelor's or master's degree or its equivalent. And teacher absenteeism in secondary education across this time. During 2020 to 2021, teacher absenteeism peaked in August, October, December, February, and April. And in 2021 to 2022, it peaked in August, December, January, April, May, and June. It's noteworthy to mention that in October 2021, the staggered resumption of face-to-face education in connection with the COVID pandemic took place, and throughout that academic year, testing, contact tracing, and quarantine measures were, of course, still in effect. So just to take a look at the breakdown of education funding, subsidy approved for these academic years. If you look at the chart, you will see that Charlotte Brookson Academy for the Performance Arts 2020 to 2021 had a structured subsidy of approximately 1.9 million. 2021 to 2022, 2.2 million. Foundation, the FAVA board, 11.5 million, 2020 to 2021, 9.8 million from 2021 to 2022. Excuse me. The Catholic School Board continues to hold the highest subsidy across the subsidized school boards, 17.3 million during this time period to 17.2 million 2021-2022. Distribution of funding Primary education, of course, as the largest section, the highest amount of funding, secondary education as well. And as I've mentioned previously, even though this was 2020 to 2022, there have, of course, been reviews undertaken that are still under in process on how funding of education is handled at especially a secondary level. There were some incidental COVID funding subsidies provided to not all schools, but those that did request. As we can see, the MAC NEPA, as well as the Protestant School Board and Foundation for Secondary Education and the Catholic School Board had some incidental subsidy requests across the time period of this report, 2020 to 2022. And exam-related costs as well are available in this report, taken up as part of all of the data collection that is conducted. And busing expenses, of course, in 2020, it was very minimal. Picked up again in 2021 as we staggered the return to schools. And in 2022, 3.5 million was the approximate spend on the busing for education.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurance.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurance.
So that prompts me to ask if within the ministry there is this comparison that we had for this period, if we even have some information going a little further back to see even the longer trend. And so sort of a historic, I think it would be interesting if those numbers are available in the same comparison mode, if we could get those as well for a few years, maybe before, maybe approximately 5 years in total, kind of. So that would be a question. And at the same time, I would ask how far are the preparations for the 2023 year report, or yes, year report on the state of education, if the minister can provide that as well. And then, Mr. Chairman, I want to go into or look into the different reform measures and initiatives with respect to education that are part of the country package. And there has been a St. Martin Education Review in 2023, and I'm sure the minister would remember the discussions on this review during her time as Member of Parliament, because at that time we received the report from the TWO, so the administrators of the country package, and the ministry at the time had indicated that they had their own view on some of the things that were mentioned in this education review. So where does that stand right now, that review? And very specifically, there are approximately 10 general recommendations in the area of educational improvements in that report. And thus my question is this report and the recommendations in the report, is that any type of basis for what the ministry is doing in terms of improvements in education? And if that is so, can the minister provide, based on the recommendations in that review, just like a update? Yes, this one is being worked on, this is what we have developed, or maybe they're not necessarily the priorities of the ministry, and then if that can also be indicated. And then I think it was maybe the last slide in the presentation by the minister, and we got an overview of the cost. Yes, that one exactly, the one regarding school busing transportation and the expenses associated therewith. And I know for several years, different ways of improving the school transportation system have been looked at, have been highlighted. We have received even some intentions in the past from the respective ministers on this matter. So where do we stand with the issue of school busing transportation? You know, what are the improvements and what other improvements are anticipated?
I also saw in the presentation, Mr. Chairman, through you to the minister, social promotion. Is this seen as what they would call a bespreekgeval, or is it where, for instance, I know in certain instances where a student is too old, they will then be promoted automatically based on their age? So I would like to know, what is a social promotion? Lastly, Mr. Chairman, I know that even in the last budget that was passed, the subsidies have increased to somewhat for the different school boards. But I would like to know, without the publication of the budget 2025, how will the ministry execute the payments of the subsidies? So through you, Mr. Chairman, for the budget 2025, how will the ministry execute the payment of the subsidies without the budget being published? Does this affect the execution of those payments?
Chart of the flow of PE to SE. Question is, would it be possible to get also the chart of the years before that, so for 2019 to 2020 and to 2018 to 2019, to get a better overall perspective of the flow of that specific chart? Also, there was a decline in student count, aside from the notable reason, but maybe was there another reason for the decline in student count between the 2 years? Also, MP Duran just touched on it as it pertains to being more current with these reports, because this report is, let's say, about 4 years ago. MP Duran used the word sooner, but I would want to go a bit deeper and ask if there's some type of structure that we can agree on moving forward. Like, for example, if the school year finishes in June, this report takes X amount of months to be generated, and we can expect the reports every X amount of months after the school year has concluded. So we can have more of a structure moving forward here in Parliament. And lastly, there are a lot of slides about the teachers' absenteeism and their credentials, etc. But I didn't see any slide as it pertains to the promotion of the teachers. So a slide on, hey, X amount of teachers were promoted in that a particular year, in order for us to also look to delve deeper into how we can stimulate promotions moving forward. So is that something that is charted? Is that something that is data is being collected? Or if not, can that be something moving forward that is collected and also implemented in the such reports moving forward? And that would be it for my questions.
My question My question through you, Mr. Chairman, to the minister is, and this is a question that when we met the students today, the students asked the mock minister, so that's why I'm going to ask the minister through you, Mr. Chairman. What are schools doing to assist children who cannot speak the English language? Because we have compulsory education, so they have to come to school. They're in school. They do not understand the English language. They do not speak. They do not understand. They cannot write. What is being done? Are those children then left behind? Do they end up in certain high schools, whereas let's say their intellect is, were they able to understand the language, they would have been in a different school? Like, is there a program? What is being done? And yeah, does the ministry have funds for this? Has this been identified as a problem? Maybe it's not a problem, but I spoke to some teachers and they have indicated that it's not an isolated issue. It is something that is happening in our schools, that we have students who do not understand English. So what is being done with that? Those are my questions for now. Thank you.
However, data for me is not just numbers. I would have liked to see at the end of the presentation the minister's plans to improve said data, and that is missing. I just saw a screen full of numbers, and while the numbers are important, it missed the gist of what the minister's plan. And to the Honorable Minister, through you, Mr. Chair, also, is there data on literacy, numeracy achievements, data on special needs schools, data on curriculum reform? What are our kids failing with? What percentage of our kids are failing due to, whether it's mathematics? See, I've always said one of my favorite quotes, and I repeat it: if you judge a fish on the ability to climb a tree, it'll go its life thinking it's not up to par. And that's because we have a one-track curriculum. And I have a master's degree in civil engineering, but when my car breaks down, I have to go to my friend who doesn't have a high school diploma that fixes my car. And I say that to say this: he is skilled, but had he known his talent and his skills before being conceived or judged as not up to par and not being able to graduate, because I see in the presentation given to us, there's also a section where some students do not qualify for exams. He was one. If we adjust our curriculum from early, then we would know who have skills with their hands, who have mechanical skills, and where we can adjust and send them before time. And what this would do, me graduating from a high school in Atlanta, I had people who graduated with mechanical degrees that graduated and walked the same stage as me. Different curriculums, different class, started with me, graduated with me, high school, different curriculum. What does this do for our statistics? It decreases high school dropouts. That statistic is now decreased. While the minister is newly appointed, the reality is the minister is appointed. And I am lacking that from the minister, which is the minister's view. I heard for the budget debate, but I wanted to see how can we increase certain specific data. And when I hear data, it's also mentioned through you, Mr. Chair, that take into consideration that it's COVID-19, this period. So the numbers are tainted, whether negatively or positively, but the numbers are tainted. A lot of kids did not go to school during this time, and there were also unforeseen circumstances, parents losing their jobs, so maybe some kids did not return. So it'll be interesting to see the later years, and hopefully some of these numbers can increase where it deals with absenteeism.